Okay, so picture this. It's 3:30 in the morning, you're in a hospital, and it has that eerie, dead of night quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like it's just waiting for something to happen. We're diving into a story called The Hemoglobin Trap. And trust me, it's more than just a medical case. It's a really powerful lesson about just how dangerous simple assumptions can be and why being vigilant is everything. All right, so here's where it all starts. It's the 3 a.m. handover. Our main character is a second-month resident, pretty new, working the night float shift. They get signed out a new patient, and the plan seems, well, almost too simple. And look at how routine this all seems. The patient, stable. No signs of active bleeding. The instructions are completely standard. Just keep an eye on their H&H. That's their hemoglobin and hematocrit. It's basically a simple blood test to make sure they're not bleeding. On paper, this should be a quiet night for this patient. But this is where the trap is laid. It's one of those moments where a tiny, seemingly innocent assumption is about to make the whole system fail. And here is the disconnect, plain and simple. The expectation was that the lab order was in. I mean, of course it was, right? That's what you'd assume during a busy handover. But the reality? It was never placed. Maybe it was a missed click. Maybe the computer timed out. It doesn't matter why. The safety net was gone. And then the pager screams. The silence of the night is shattered. And this isn't just a routine page. The patient's blood pressure is crashing. They're dizzy. That quiet, straightforward night has just exploded into a full-blown emergency. So let's pause here for a second. Put yourself in that resident's shoes. The pager goes off with that message. Before you even start running to the room, what are the first things you need to ask the nurse over the phone? What information is critical right now? And this is basically the playbook. Your first move is to get more data fast. You're asking about other symptoms. Are they short of breath? Any chest pain? What about the other vitals? Is their heart racing? And the big one, can you see any bleeding anywhere? You're building a picture in your head before you even get to the room. Okay, so the resident gets that info and heads to the patient's room, because now it's all about what you can see for yourself. It's time to trust your own eyes. And this is that moment, that gut instinct. The resident walks in, and before looking at a single monitor or chart, they just know. The patient looks sick. Their skin is clammy, they're sweating, they're pale. This isn't a faulty machine. This is the real deal. And that gut feeling, it's backed up 100% by the protocol. The patient is checking all the boxes for a see them right now emergency. He's got hypotension, he's showing signs of poor perfusion. This is the kind of situation where you drop everything else. And then comes the question, the one that should have a simple, routine answer. When was the last lab check? And the nurse's reply, it's just a gut punch. There isn't one. The safety check they were counting on, it was never there. The trap has just sprung. So they order a stat lab, an immediate one. And this is what comes back. A 2 gram per deciliter drop in hemoglobin. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but for a patient whose levels were already just borderline, a 2-point drop is massive. It confirms their worst fear. This patient has been quietly bleeding out for hours. So what happens now? The bomb is dropped. There is zero time to worry about who made what mistake. It's all hands on deck. It's time for the training to kick in and start the resuscitation. And the team just moves. First things first, you need access. That means getting 1 or 2 large IV lines in so you can give fluids or blood fast. You start pumping in fluids to try and get that blood pressure up. You stop any medications that might make the bleeding worse. And so importantly, you call for help. You get your senior resident on the phone early. This brings us to a really key concept in medicine. When a patient is actively bleeding, you treat the patient, not the number on the lab report. His crashing blood pressure, his clammy skin, that's what you act on immediately. You don't wait for the lab to confirm what your eyes are already telling you. And you know, even the way we give blood has gotten smarter. The old school method was just to hang 2 units of blood almost automatically. But best practice now is to give 1 unit of packed red blood cells and then you stop. You reassess. It's a much more careful, thoughtful approach. And just so you have a frame of reference, in a stable patient who isn't actively bleeding, this is usually the magic number. If their hemoglobin drops below 7, that's when we typically start thinking about a transfusion. But as this story shows, when they're unstable, all bets are off. So the team stabilizes the patient, which is fantastic news. But the story isn't over. because the most important part of this whole ordeal, the real lesson, comes the next morning when the resident talks to their attending physician. And this quote, wow, it just cuts right to the heart of it. The near miss wasn't because the resident didn't know the right medical treatment. It was because they put too much faith in the system and the electronic chart, and not enough in the simple, crucial act of verifying things for themselves. So let's just boil this all down into some solid, life-saving advice. First, if an order is important, check it yourself. Don't just assume it's in. If the numbers look bad and the patient feels sick, you go see them immediately. Remember that the electronic medical record is not perfect. It's full of traps. Trust your gut, and for heaven's sake, never be afraid to call for help early. Which leaves us with this final question to chew on. What's actually the harder part of medicine? Is it learning all the facts from the textbook? Or is it learning the discipline to never stop checking, to never assume, and to be constantly vigilant about all the ways things can go wrong? This story makes a pretty strong case for the latter.